Barbara.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Great. In fact, we are thrilled that you have come to talk to us because we could talk about your characters and your books for days.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Our
So,
pleasure.
you have such an interesting path to becoming a writer. And I'm going to quote from some bio stuff that I found about you. In addition to your career as a technical writer and instructional designer, you worked as a raptor rehabilitator, a piano teacher and performer, and a sword fighter. You served as director of education for the country's largest public astronomical observatory and taught Beethoven to kids.
Wow.
Amazing.
And then
And you
for
know,
fun, you write books. Yeah.
Yeah.
and I still haven't figured out what I want to be when I grow up.
Well, I tell you what, you have one of the most interesting paths to get in there.
It's been strange, but a lot
hmm
of fun.
hmm Tell us how you became started writing.
That goes actually all the way back to when I was 3,
Mm,
if that sounds crazy. I
mm,
was in the hospital for my first eye surgery. I've now had 7 with
mm.
at least 2 more to go.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, all in one eye. I keep it siloed there.
Yeah.
But during that time, people were sending me good get well cards. And somehow I already knew I wanted to be a writer. So I'd
Mm,
flip these cards over to the backs, which were blank, and then I would imitate my mom's handwriting. And then when she came to visit me, I would tell her the story that I had written.
mm.
Oh,
Yeah. So
that's
so my mom thought
adorable.
that was great. She really wanted a Pulitzer Prize winning author in the in the family. She always had very high standards. But then I went off and did all this other
Mhm,
stuff.
mhm,
And then ultimately, what kind of forced my hand was the Waldo Canyon wildfire. And
mm.
after we lost our home in 2012, it was a watershed moment for me. It's like
Yeah.
either I get really serious about this writing thing. I mean, I've been dabbling in it. I
Mhm,
never stopped writing, but it was time to make it happen.
mhm,
And so I did. So in the midst of finding a new home and buying furniture and sheets
mhm,
and towels and dishes and all of that, I wrote my first novel, full novel
mm.
in, gosh, I don't even know how long. And I had written a mystery because I thought there's a big market for mysteries. I love mysteries. If you have a dead body, people have to do something, right?
Right.
So I always had
Yeah.
characters. It was having action to propel them through the story that
Mhm,
was tricky.
Yeah.
So I had fun settling on a police procedural because I
mhm,
loved the science.
mhm.
So that's where it went.
That is amazing. I mean,
Mm.
it's amazing when you get to those moments where life forces you to go on a different path and you're like, okay, I'm going to take up the reins. I mean, that is just such a great um inspiration.
Yeah.
I think there was a line in The Sound of Music that was something about when a door closes, a
hmm
window opens,
hmm
and we have to keep looking for those
Yes.
windows
Right.
because the doors are going to close. We don't have
Yeah.
control over
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but we
Right.
can find that window.
And
Right.
they aren't any fun when they do. I mean, I imagine losing
No,
everything in a wildfire is it's just
it
Can't
tragic.
even
was,
imagine.
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But so you
Wow.
But
found your
good
window.
came out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
What I think is so compelling, your bio, I just was smiling the whole time Wynne was, extolling all of your virtues. But the thing that just strikes me about all of that, Barbara, and then, reading your latest, The Drowning Game, is just the level of dedication and curiosity and the research
Mhm,
and kind of the immersion that it takes,
mhm,
to tell a story. And, the book has so many elements that touch on your interests, related to science, but there's so much intrigue and the characters are just delightful.
mhm.
But it's
Thank
funny
you.
how the becoming of who we are, it just gets richer over time. And I can see how all of that finds its way into your writing.
Mhm.
All that lived experience, and then plus some, the things that you clearly dive in and learn about,
Mhm.
and then bring forward in the story, which I think, sometimes mystery writers, there can be less, but you put so much heart and detail
Mhm.
into it. I felt like I was learning things about topics that I would never have known anything about. So it's enjoyable, but also so educational too,
Mhm.
about a part of the world that I feel ignorant about. Yeah.
Well, no, thank you for that. I absolutely love research. And when I was younger, this was before your time, probably those old um, there were tomes by James Clavell,
Mhm.
his
Oh, yeah.
series. Well, now they've made a series about it on HBO, right? Shogun.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, and you always came away from those books having learned so much. It was sort of
Hmm.
like the teaspoon of sugar
Mhm.
with the medicine of history, although I don't really think of
Yeah.
history as being medicine, but probably at that age
Hmm.
I did. That was homework versus fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what inspired me to want to do at least some of that in my own
Mhm.
work. And plus I love learning about everything.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's really not much that would not catch my attention. And so with each book, I've tried to pick some topic that I'm interested in, or some social theme, and then B, I've tried to learn something about the craft with each
Mhm.
book,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and also to bring in a little bit of life experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Vicki, you're right about as we go through life and we start to realize how little control we have over it and we come to
Mhm.
terms with that, I think that's where internal growth happens.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
love doing that with my characters. I love those moments of
Yeah.
Mhm.
stepping up
Hmm.
and proving what you've got inside, because I think we all have more than we realize.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So good.
In one promo that I saw for the Drowning Game, you ask these questions: What matters more, your family or your country? How do you
Hmm.
choose? And you're talking about that same growth and those same sliding glass door
Yeah.
moments that you have for your characters that we see over and over again, whether it's the Drowning Game or the Evan Wilder series, or the Sydney Rose character. I mean, there's just this invitation to bravery.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems we just even it's you just said it so well. That internal growth.
Hmm.
And I think we all face that. I mean, it's so much part of our journey that when you're learning how to write fiction, there's Blake Snyder's beats, and he calls that the debate.
Uh,
This challenge is set before the character. Will they or won't they step up? Or
mm-hmm,
in the
Hmm.
hero's journey,
mm-hmm,
it's crossing the threshold. And once you
Right.
cross that threshold, you can't go back.
mm-hmm,
The thing with life is a lot of those thresholds are thrust upon us.
mm-hmm.
We don't we don't
Hmm.
sign up for them, and
Right.
we don't really have a choice as to whether or not to move forward. But in
Hmm.
fiction, you can play with that. What is
Yeah.
this character really capable of? And in the Drowning Game, I put myself in Nadia's shoes and thought, what would I do?
Mm-hmm,
Hmm.
And what would I have done in Nazi Germany? Or what would I have
mm-hmm,
done in Rwanda? Am I the person that I really aspire to be?
mm-hmm.
And what if my family was at risk? It's easy to say, oh,
Yeah.
I would have hidden a Jewish family in my home.
Hmm.
But if you have children,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes that much trickier.
Yeah.
So I know if I had been her, I would have run back to Seattle and hidden under the bed and said, make it all go away.
Right.
I
Right.
can't do this. But we get to be more heroic in fiction.
Mm-hmm,
And
Right.
growing up, my parents are from the South, which is a lot of Southerners. I don't mean to paint in a broad stroke, but I have a lot of family in the South, and they're very conscious of what people think.
mm-hmm.
And that was one of
Yeah.
my mom's favorite phrases. If I stayed out with my boyfriend too long on the front porch and, oh, maybe he gave me a kiss,
Mm.
what will the neighbors think?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that there was that weirdness, keep your
Yeah.
skeletons in the closet, but
Mm-hmm.
also they were really good people. My
Mhm.
parents were good people. They had
Hmm.
good values. They lived by those values, and they really inspired me. It's sort of the Buddhist concept. I'm rambling on here, but it's the Buddhist
Perfect.
concept of right intent.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So as long as we're coming from right intent,
Hmm.
that's all we can ask of ourselves.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But in the process of doing that, you mentioned Nadia,
Mm.
sort of the heroine, the protagonist, and she's so flawed in her own way that I think you invite the reader to see, male or female, themselves in it because her struggle is it's what you and Wynne have described is very real.
Mhm.
What do I want to do? What do I need to do? Thinking about the greater good and what's right. And it's not easy and it plays out and there's some, brilliant
Mhm.
complexity in your writing.
Oh,
The
thank
things
you.
that you tease and withhold,
Mhm.
and we don't want to give too much away, but one of the things that I loved so much was her nickname, which is so good.
Yeah.
So good because they're little doses of familial humor,
Yeah.
quote, also woven in about the family dynamic. So
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
Oh, thank you.
So good.
Right.
Can I share? Can I say what her
Oh, of
nickname is?
course.
So her
Sure.
name is Nadia Brenner, but her nickname is Naughty. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. So I
Yeah.
guess I
She
have to
may,
ask, did that come in a flash, or did you know as you were developing the character that Nadia was going to be naughty to her dad?
I didn't. It did come in a flash. That's a great way of
I
putting
love.
it. I was typing and suddenly her dad called her naughty.
Mhm.
And
Wow, I love
like
that.
those are the things you're grateful for. I mean, with
Mhm.
writing, there's so much you have to work really hard on, or at least I
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
Plotting does not come easy for
Yeah.
me. So when those little moments happen, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go have a glass of wine.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. It's like she was there with you or Guy was with you. Who brought you Nadia?
Mm.
Was it Nadia?
It must have been Guy
Mhm.
Love
letting me
that.
know that there was more to Nadia's past than I knew. And
Mhm.
that is such a joy in writing, is letting
Yeah.
those characters reveal themselves to you. Where they
Yeah.
come from, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
model my characters on real people, although I'm sure there's plenty in there that I'm not conscious of.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just one of those wonderful magical things with the human brain that I
Mhm.
love.
I love
Mhm.
it. They're hanging out with you. You just need
Right.
to invite them in, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and
Right,
clearly.
except when they're, outside your study on strike because they don't like what you've done. There
Yeah,
are
that's
those
not
days
good.
too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you must not have had many of those days because you've written like four crime novels and this latest the spy thriller in 4 years. I mean, that is an incredible pace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't deserve any credit for that. It's my publisher and their idea of publishing cadency. So
Mm.
my first book, Blood on the Tracks, which was named after the Bob Dylan album, that came out, isn't this appalling? I can't remember,
Mm.
2016.
Mm.
And I'm now working on my ninth book. So
Wow.
so 9 books in 10 years or
Hmm.
whatever it adds up to. And I remember having lunch in this wonderful French restaurant with my editor and the person called the author liaison who handled a lot of things for us, and then the head of the imprint. And she leaned across the table and she said, Barbara, the one thing we need from you is a book a year. Because I was late. I was consistently late.
Yeah.
So I that's still an issue for me,
Hmm.
and yet it keeps me going.
Yeah.
So I guess I need the push.
Well, and given all the research you do, I mean, that is an
Right.
incredible rate.
Yeah, I should do a little less research maybe and more writing. My husband said the other day, he's like, why don't you write a book you don't have to do any research for? It's like,
Oh,
I don't know
Oh,
how to do that. I
yeah,
don't know how to
right.
do that.
oh
I
my
mean, isn't that what
gosh.
we spend hours scrolling on our phones doing? This is research.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I
I
don't know.
You know,
I'm researching right now.
Oh my gosh.
do you guys get the notification from your phone on how much time you spent your
Yes.
daily average and you're just appalled?
Yeah, yeah. This is where
It's
we
like,
hang our heads
Right.
in shame. Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
but
Hmm.
if it's research,
Hmm.
I figure you get a pass.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You have to know
yeah,
what's going on in the world.
yeah,
Yeah, you're not
yeah.
buying it. Wait.
I
No, but I guess I'm curious too what what Wynne had said and what you just described, Barbara, about kind of the pace. Is there have you come up with a process that really works for you? I know every writer does something different about plot development and character through lines. And do you use like a graphic organizer? Do you have something big and visible in front of you? Or what's your secret to doing that? Because I get lost in my own details. How do you keep it all straight?
Yeah, you're giving me way too much credit.
Oh,
I
no. No,
I have
no. I
not
just
figured
read
out my
this. I'm
process.
yeah.
not. No, it's amazing.
I I don't know, guys. I am still trying to figure it out. I have
Mm,
tried pantsing, which is, writing by the
mhm.
seat of your pants, and or
Yeah.
maybe a nicer term is discovery writing, which works wonderfully for
Yeah.
some of my friends. They write tremendous books and they don't know from one page to the next what's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
they're as surprised as the readers.
Yeah.
Then there's like people like Jeffrey Deaver who spend, what did he say? Something like 4 months lying on the couch in the dark, plotting every single move and twist. And clearly
Oh
he would
my
be a
gosh.
master at chess,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Because he
Oh,
Right.
could
Right.
yeah.
probably see so many moves ahead. I've
Right.
And
tried that,
yeah.
and none of it. It's just a mishmash. The
Hmm.
thing I've settled on, I think that works best for me was I think it was E.L. Doctorow who said, all you have to do is think of it as driving from New York to LA at night, and you can only see as far as your headlights,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
that will get you eventually to LA.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I do some detours I don't mean to
Yeah.
take,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I that's all I got.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing. I mean, because clearly what makes it work is you have to sit down and do it. However you're going to do it, you just have to
Yeah.
sit there and
Yeah,
try, and then it comes
therein
out
lies the rub.
right.
Yeah.
But how
Yeah.
do you balance with that schedule? I mean, doing things like this, which is sort of marketing for your books and writing, and how do you create that balance?
Yeah.
It's tough because I think it comes from different parts of your brain.
Hmm.
And you do have to work to start compartmentalizing and switching focus. So
Mhm.
this morning I was working, I was being creative, or at least I hope I was. I'll find out in the reread tomorrow. And then switching for this conversation. But
Mhm.
things like this, getting to talk to people like you, we were chatting before this podcast started, and I was just enchanted with your stories and delighted. And that really it it really adds something to the whole process,
Mhm.
to be able to connect with like-minded people, to get
Right.
stimulated by conversation. So I'll go back this afternoon and I'll be renewed. So
Mhm.
thanks for that.
Oh, I think that's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to us. Oh,
Oh,
Vicki.
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a good thing we're recording.
so
That's
true.
really good.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
But all of that kind of begs the question, for people to be achievers in the way that you are, and creative, but also so thoughtful about the craft and the
Hmm.
creation. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just it's very clear
Hmm.
that
Mhm.
you care about all of it.
Yeah.
It just comes through in your writing. It's just so beautiful on so many levels. But having said all of that, at the end of a day like today, when you've spent some time with us, but you're writing in the morning and getting back to it later, what makes a good writing day for you? Like when you leave your space and you say you're done, is there something that you look for to sort of characterize the effort that day to either push you forward, with a little lift, into the next day or push you forward a little harder because you goofed off with Vicki and Wynne too long, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What an interesting question. I have been thinking about that. I When something has made me excited for the work that day, or the work that's coming up, that's a good day for me. And
Mhm.
I always try to end, Hemingway said, oh, end in the middle of a sentence. I think I don't do that, but I have learned that in order to overcome my fear of the blank screen the
Mhm.
Hmm.
next morning, I need to know what my next scene is going to be about, or at least how I'm
Ah.
going to get
Mhm.
into it. So I always have that.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, the the thing I'm learning, my family has dealt with so many traumas, and I'm sad to say it's not over. We're still dealing with a lot.
Mm,
And
I'm
and at the end
sorry.
of the day, all I can do is all I have control over is myself, as I
mhm,
mentioned earlier. And I want to be proud of myself.
mhm,
I want to feel like I gave it a good day's work, that I
mhm,
worked hard, that I was coming from the right place in my heart, which maybe sounds crazy for writing
mhm.
mystery novels, but that's how I feel. And that maybe I've pushed my skill level a little bit in whatever craft thing I'm trying in the latest book.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's true for all of us, right? At the
Mhm.
end of the day, we want to feel good about who we are in the
Right.
world.
Well, and
Yeah.
I love, I mean, because you have taught some incredible writing lessons. We were
Yes.
reading a writer's digest article that you wrote, and you talk about, sort of that writing for resilience, how writing helps you recover. And one of the things you said in that is that you work through your grief by helping your characters work through theirs. And I mean, that's just powerful. Um, yeah.
Yeah, writing is a process,
Hmm.
and I mentioned in that article, I think that I teach writing,
Hmm.
creative writing to veterans and most
Hmm.
especially combat veterans, and letting them walk through their processes, whatever that looks like. And for some of them, they don't want to write about their personal experience,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but it can come out through the characters
Hmm.
and what the characters have learned and how they've processed. And yeah, there's this symbiotic relationship between creation and experience and process that is just beautiful to see.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
talk about something to really be proud of. I'm not only the books that you've written, but the writing that you teach. So
So
you
Thank
have
much
to
you.
so.
tell us what's next on your what are you working on?
I was hoping to do another espionage novel, but
Hmm.
I kind of have my niche with my publisher, which is um, crime cases involving a consultant who's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
So I had the railroad cop in my first book. I
Hmm.
had a forensic
Hmm.
semiotician in my second series. And then I got to do my espionage, yay! And I'm hoping I get to go back to that. But right now I've got my unusual consultant again, and
Oh,
all I'll say about him is he's known as the mythologist, and
I
he's
love
working with an
him.
FBI agent.
Ooh.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
So
Ooh.
we're back to serial killers,
Okay.
and so of course I'm doing a ton of research on psychopathy, which is sort of alarming. You start looking around at people going, hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, but it's all research,
Yeah,
right? It's all
right.
Right,
research.
right.
Yes, it is. It is. But I love that. And I love the connection, to working with veterans and creative writing and James Pennebaker and the opening up by writing it down. It's all
Mhm,
that circuitous
Yeah,
stuff that we do about,
mhm,
being vulnerable, stretching a little
mhm.
bit, hoping for greater good for other people. But in the end, I think often, we're writing for ourselves about themes that matter and yeah, all of that. So I love
Yeah.
that. So
yeah. What
good.
was it Joan Didion said? I write so I know what I think.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
So
So
true.
Absolutely.
true. Yeah.
So
And it's
true.
funny how you don't find out until you write it down.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Do you
Oh my
guys
So good.
gosh.
journal? Do either of you journal?
And then
Yep.
often we turn it into blog posts. So Wynne
Hmm.
and I are pretty forthcoming with a lot of personal details.
Yep.
And again, it's, we share this love of revealing self because it's
Hmm.
that's the healing journey, for
Hmm.
different
Oh,
reasons. So
I can't wait to check out your blog. Yay.
oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you'll more know more than you ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you
Yeah.
some of my climbing posts. I think you'll
Yes,
like those
please
stories.
do. Yes.
Oh my
And it'll all be
goodness.
grist for the mill.
Yes.
Right,
Oh,
right.
so much good grist. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us. It was an absolute honor and pleasure.
Indeed.
Oh, the honor and pleasure is mine, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.